What if the definitive proof of a visitation wasn't in the sky, but rather etched, burned into the very earth beneath your feet? What if the ground you farmed, the foundation of your life, was suddenly rewritten, crystallized, rendered sterile, and poisoned by a touch that does not belong to this world? This isn't speculation. It's what happened in Delphos, Ohio. An honest and respected family, the Johnsons, didn't just witness the impossible, they touched it. And they paid the price with their own health. The Delphos case isn't about what was seen for a few minutes. It's about what was left behind, a physical scar on the planet, evidence so anomalous, so real, that it sickened those who touched it and forced laboratories into silence, treating their findings like a state secret. The night of November 2nd, 1971, began like any other. The Ohio air was cold, and by around 7 p.m., darkness had already swallowed the Johnson farm. Outside, Ronald, known to everyone as Ron, was finishing his chores. He was tending to the sheep, accompanied only by his dog. Inside the house, the warmth of the kitchen and the promise of dinner. Irma called for her son, who answered that he'd be in soon. The sound of his voice was the last normal thing about that night. Seconds later, the tranquility was broken. It wasn't thunder, nor any known engine. Ron would later describe it as the sound of an old washing machine in its spin cycle, a mechanical, piercing noise that sent the farm animals into an instant panic. Ron looked in the direction of the chaos. 65 feet away from him, something defied logic. Hovering 2 feet off the ground, an object. It was the size of a small car, perhaps 10 feet in diameter and 10 feet high. Its shape was rounded at the top, with a protruding base, but it was its surface that was mesmerizing. It looked metallic, but it pulsed with its own light. It wasn't a reflected light. The object was the source of the light, a supernatural luminescence that shifted between blue, red, and orange. Ron stood paralyzed, trying to process what he was seeing. Then the object reacted to his presence. A white, incandescent light exploded from its base, bathing the ground. Almost instantly, this light intensified, becoming a spotlight of unimaginable power. Ron tried to shield his face, but the light was a physical assault. His eyes burned. The pain was so intense that he was forced to shut his eyes, blinded by the phenomenon's magnitude. He could hear the machine sound, knowing the thing was still there. He tried to force his eyes open one more time. In response, the object glowed with a final intensity, a burst of light that forced him to retreat. When the pain subsided enough for him to try looking again, the glow had diminished. He saw the object begin to ascend. Silently, it drifted upward, passing over a shed. And then, the sound changed. The mechanical washer noise gave way to a sharp hiss like a jet plane as the thing shot off at high speed toward the south. Ron was left alone in the darkness, his eyes throbbing and his vision compromised. He ran for the house. Ron burst into the house, shouting his unbelievable story. His parents, Durrell and Irma, who had already finished dinner, looked at him with skepticism. It was an absurd story. But the boy's face didn't lie. His eyes were red, irritated, and he was trembling from genuine fright. The parents' disbelief lasted only a second. Daryl and Irma went outside, just in time to see the final proof of Ron's story. In the southern sky, a bright light, about half the size of a full moon, was moving away at high speed. They believed, and immediately they went to the spot Ron had indicated. What they found was not of this world. The object had left, but something of it had remained. In the place where it had hovered, there was now a circle on the ground, a grayish-white circle that, against all logic, glowed in the dark, a cold luminescence that refused to fade. It wasn't just the soil. The surrounding trees also seemed to glow. Curiosity, or perhaps shock, overcame caution. Daryl and Irma moved closer. They touched the mark. The sensation was immediate and strange. Irma described the soil as having a smooth crust, as if the earth had been crystallized, and it was cold. Seconds after touching it, Irma's fingers went numb. In a reflex, she wiped her fingers on her leg. The result was terrifying. The numbness transferred from the soil to her fingers, to her clothes, and now her leg was also numb. Daryl, who also touched the mark, felt the same numbness take over his fingers. Irma, realizing they were facing something that needed to be recorded, ran inside and grabbed the family's Polaroid camera. 10 minutes after the object took off, she snapped a photo that would become iconic, a ghostly ring glowing against the darkness of the farm. Daryl, meanwhile, did something that would change their lives. He called the local newspaper. The next day, November 3rd, the reality of the outside world arrived at the Johnson farm. Teja Smith, a reporter from the Delphos newspaper, arrived on the scene. She admitted she was skeptical, but the farm offered proof she couldn't ignore. The day was damp. Melted snow had turned the ground to mud, but in the middle of the mud, the mark was unmistakable. Teja reported that no one needed to point it out. It was a perfectly visible ring, about a foot wide, and it was completely, frighteningly dry. The anomaly didn't stop there. The object, when landing or taking off, had broken branches. One of them from a living tree was what shocked the reporter most. The branch was green, with healthy leaves, but it snapped as if it were dead, dry wood. On the surface of the break, small, whitish bubbles had formed. Deputy Sheriff Harlem Elon arrived shortly after. He brought his equipment. First test, radioactivity. Result, negative. But he confirmed what the reporter saw. The ground was damp, but the ring was perfectly dry. He collected his first soil samples. And then corroboration came. Miles away, a resident named Lester called the station. He reported seeing around 7:30 p.m. at the exact same time a bright light descending from the sky right in the area near Delphos. The Johnsons were not alone. The most serious investigation began 32 days later with the arrival of ufologist Ted Phillips. He first investigated the family. His conclusion? The Johnsons were exactly what they seemed: quiet, honest people who weren't seeking attention. Ron, in particular, impressed Phillips. His testimony was consistent, objective, never adding or forgetting a detail. When Phillips finally went to the site, he expected to find faint traces. He was wrong. Even 32 days after the event, the mark was still perfectly visible. The soil was still lighter than the rest. Phillips decided to test the dryness anomaly.
He poured water onto the mark. The water, defying gravity and physics, simply ran over the soil but would not wet it. The earth had become waterproof. He collected samples, digging deep. The anomaly was not superficial. The white color and strange texture went down at least 8 inches into the soil. Phillips returned on January 11, 1972, more than 70 days later. The mark was still there, visible, dry, white. While the earth held its scar, the family dealt with theirs. The numbness in Irma's and Daryl's fingers lasted for more than 2 weeks. Ron, the most exposed, suffered from severe headaches and debilitating eye pain for almost a month. Something toxic had been left behind.
The soil samples were sent to multiple laboratories, and here the mystery of Delphos deepens and becomes a secret. One lab issued a preliminary note that sounded like science fiction. Biologically, it was dirt, but when water was added, the sample behaved like ground glass. The water was repelled. The earth had lost its most fundamental property. In another test, when the sample was placed in a blender with a suspension fluid, the liquid mysteriously turned red. Years later, in 1977, a new study concluded that the substance impregnating the soil had chemoluminescent properties. That is, it emitted light through a chemical reaction. It was compared to a highly soluble soap, but with a crucial caveat. It was nothing that could be classified as common on Earth. The final test was the most frightening. Germination tests. Seeds planted in healthy soil next to the mark germinated normally. The seeds planted in the soil within the mark never sprouted. The soil was sterile. That object didn't just land, it sterilized the ground it touched. Most of the laboratories that received the samples never published their results. The scientists went silent, and the findings were treated as a state secret. In 2020, a team from Kansas State University announced a new investigation using modern technology. Ron Johnson, who inherited the farm, had made a wise decision years earlier. He buried the mark under several feet of earth, preserving it. The landing site is intact, waiting. But due to world events, this new investigation has stalled, or perhaps is simply running in silence. The object departed, but the secret of Delphos remains. It is no longer in the sky. It's buried under feet of earth in Ohio, preserved, waiting for our science to one day decipher its toxic message. The Johnson family sought only normalcy, and that search for discretion is the greatest testament to their truth. But now we want to hear your analysis. Were you already aware of the chilling depth of the Delphos case? In your research, is there any important fact, any lab analysis that we left out? We want to expand our research and strengthen this community. Please tell us, what country are you watching from right now? And what time is it there in your time zone? Your participation is what drives alien cases. Unfortunately, our recent videos have had very low reach, but we will remain steadfast and tireless. We will continue to unravel new mysteries and revisit known cases, as there's always someone new who might not know the story, or someone who, even knowing it, can add a piece to this enormous puzzle. For this work to continue and beat the algorithm, your subscription and your like are absolutely vital. And your comment is essential. It shows YouTube that this video is relevant and helps get this material delivered to other people who, like us, are deeply interested in the subject. Thank you for watching this far.